It is flippin' frenzy time, and need I say more? We in Sonnet's creative membership group, we all switch names, send somebody a box of junk, and then we flip it. So let's get in to this.
So if you haven't seen my little reel short, this is what I got from Shelley from the Vintage Hen and Chick, and we're going to make this into a spring fling vignette. So for project number one, I am taking this jar that she sent me. I believe this is a sauerkraut jar. I put the lid on top of one of my little paint containers to make it easier to paint, and I am going in with mint chip. Mint chip is a pretty spring green and it just makes me happy. And I thought this would go really well with all of my pieces to help tie them together. Now, for my jar, I did not use any sort of bonding agent with this. I just went in right with my DIY paint, and I am going to give this 2 coats of paint, and then we will go ahead and work on the next part of this. So when I paint glass and I'm not using that bonding agent, I do make sure that it is 100% completely dry. You paint the coat on, walk away. Even if you use a heat gun to speed it up, walk away. Just leave it be, because the longer you let it sit, the better off you're going to be. And then we are going in with this bird and floral little masterpiece here from the Iron Orchid Designs Madeline transfer. And we are going to go ahead and put this on. I went through the middle and used my finger and the little tool and pressed down the very middle of this transfer. And then you can see I'm working above the line where all that texture is on this jar. And then I'll go down to the bottom and do the same before I work on these sides. I will start at that middle and work my way out, and then middle and work my way out on each of those sides, and it just makes it a lot easier to apply. And this is just working from those outsides back in and peeling off our little vellum backer. Once we get this piece completely on, we're going to use that backing piece and rub it in really good to make sure there's no air bubbles. And then we are going to seal this in with some clear wax, both the lid and the jar, because we used a clay-based paint that does need to be sealed, and transfers need to be sealed as well. Once this is on and we've got a good coat of it on there, I am going to take the DIY Decrepit Dust and go along the bottom and the top of this jar and along those textured parts and add some dust on there just to make this look a little bit more aged, but not enough that it takes away that pretty spring green color that we were going for. And then this piece will be finished. For project number two, I am taking that little art piece that said good vibes only and using the frame from this. The frame is in a really pretty gold, and I want to tape that off and just paint the inside of this piece, which is canvas. So I'm just ripping off pieces of tape, bending it over, and then when I get it all around the whole piece, I am going to use tape and cover up those little corners before we start painting. And while I'm doing this, let me introduce myself. My name is Sandra, and I'm the owner and creator here at Midwest Charm. I specialize in repurposed, upcycled vintage home decor, as well as all of your crafty DIY needs. I carry DIY paint, Sweet Pickins milk paint, Iron Orchid designs, Roy Cycled treasures, Connie lines and designs, and what else? My brain totally froze there, you guys. And you can find us on all of the social medias, which are linked below, as well as on our website, midwestcharm.co. And here I am going in with, yes, our mint chip paint. I am going in with this and decided it needs a little bit, I don't know, of movement, I guess. So I took out my DIY vintage linen paint, which is really thick and really old. And I'm going to give it a little mist with some water. And we're going to move that around with that mint chip and just kind of give it some movement. And then I decided it needs a little bit of texture too. So I am going to go back in with both and just give it a little bit more texture and really work with this background and play with it until I'm happy and it's got more than just that flat color. I just really wanted it to have the movement and the texture, and it actually, I really love it. I'm not gonna lie. So here we are adding in that texture, and I just really play with this until I get it to where I like. Now here is a tip for you all. I am marking which side has the top little hanger on it so that I know when I'm applying my transfers which way is up. That is so important because there's nothing worse than finishing a project, flipping it over, and realize you boo-booed. And again, we're taking all parts from that Madeline transfer and applying that to this as well. So we're going to go around, and that tape will keep the pieces from going up onto that frame, which is great as well. So leave your tape there. And we're just going to go ahead and apply this all the way around. I did trim up these little corner pieces so that they fit a little bit better onto my piece here. These were a little bit longer than the piece, and I didn't want them to just end. I wanted them to have like some, I don't know, I wanted it to look balanced enough that it just didn't look like it was chopped off and left hanging. So once we get these two side pieces on, I did take a butterfly and applied that. And then I took the little pieces that I had cut off of those little side swags and I added them onto the bottom as well to make sure that the art piece in all was really more balanced than it was right here. And then once I have everything added on of the way I want, I am going to go in with a bit of clear wax and wax this to seal in my paint and my transfers. And then I do have a little bit of decrepit dust that I add in there and buff in to get into all of that texture and just really give this piece some age and some, oh, it's beautiful. Here, actually, I forgot about this part, y'all. I took a paint marker in gold and just went around and highlighted the edges of the ribbon in the swags that came down so you could really see it, and it really added that sparkle and shine. It was the perfect touch to tie those transfers in with the frame. Now, as always in my videos, I will show you the final results at the very end, and trust me, you are gonna want to see these, so make sure you stick around. So Shelley sent me this little tote, and she had already painted it. It looks like it's possibly cake batter by DIY, which is one of my favorites. And I debated on leaving it, but instead what I decided to do was give it a quick sand and then go over it with our mint chip. And if you get any on that beautiful wood tone handle, you can either wipe it off with a baby wipe or go in at the very end and sand it off as well. So that's what I did. I left that the wood color, and then I gave this piece 2 coats of DIY mint chip. Remember, we're going to make a vignette and use all of these pieces together. I think in the end, these will all be going into one of my hutches and to totally like tie my hutch into one big vignette by using these beautiful spring fling pieces. Once I get this completely painted up and it's dry, I am going to take some more pieces from that Madeline transfer. So there is no rule out there that says you have to use these transfers exactly as they are. So I'm going to go in and cut these apart at a place where they break naturally and use these to fit the shape of my sides or the ends of this little tote. So I am using all of the pieces in this Madeline one that have like the blue tone to it because the little teapot that she sent, I decided not to do anything with. It was the perfect shade of blue that matched these flowers, and I figured that was the perfect way to tie that little Pier 1 tea kettle in without doing anything to it. Because if y'all know me, normally I would paint something like that, and I normally have no problem, but that blue was really pretty. So I just felt that this really tied that blue into our vignette and I wouldn't have to change it. So as usual, when applying a transfer, you're just going to use that little rubbing tool that comes with it. Rub down and peel up that backer. If something comes up, just lay it back down. Rub it a little more and keep going until you are finished, and make sure that you burnish your piece in, and that is just taking that layer of plastic there and rubbing it down to make sure there are no air bubbles in there. You want to make sure that this lays nice and smooth. And now we're going to give this an overall sanding. So I'm going to do all of those edges. I'm going to go over the transfers because we want to make sure those look a little bit aged as well. And then get this down to some of that yellow and some of that bare wood. And you guys, it is so pretty. It turned out so good. I love it so much. It just has that right color or that right amount of other color in there. And again, we are going in with wax and sealing this up and then taking that decrepit dust and going along the inside edges and corners. And then this piece will be finished. And finally, our last project, number 4. This one gave me a run for my money, y'all. Oh my goodness, did it ever. So she sent me this really cool rusty platter charger. I'm not sure what it is, but to tie it in with the rest of my pieces, I decided after much deliberation to go ahead and paint the inside of this piece in the mint chip. And with this being a clay-based paint, it is water activated and all that good stuff. So it makes it really easy to remove if you get it where you don't want it, as you just saw. Now here's where the problem comes in. I get this all painted. It's looking good. This is coat 1. I know I'm going to need coat 2. And as this is drying, I am noticing rust bleed through. I don't know why I didn't bother to think of that before I started painting, but you will see how I go ahead and fix this piece up. So once I hit it with that heat gun to dry it, I'm starting to see it come through. And I'd seen it come through. So I hit it with the heat gun to finish drying it because I knew what I had to do to fix this. And that is to take out the bullseye shellac spray. And I went outside and gave it 2 good coats and sealed it in. And you can really see that orange along the edge there. It was so terrible, you guys. But after those 2 coats are completely dry, I go back in very hesitantly to start painting it again. And I was so worried it wasn't going to cover up that bright orange. But guess what? It did. And it looks so pretty now. It came out with that beautiful green. And yes, I sprayed the edge too because I didn't want that to rub onto anyone's wall. And I also sprayed the back too, so that if this is on somebody's tablecloth, it's not going to bleed onto that either. So we just go in and give this 2 more coats of the DIY mint chip. This gave it pretty good coverage, but I really wanted to make sure that once this was dry, we were all good. And I did hit it with the heat gun because I wanted to double check that it wasn't going to bleed on me, because if it was going to bleed on me, I needed to take this out right away again and put another couple coats on it or give up. So here we are hitting it after coat number 2. And y'all, it looks so good. I am so happy with it. So then we're going to go and take this beautiful bouquet that it was in the Madeline Iron Orchid Designs transfer from the spring release, and we're going to apply this to the center of our plate, and it fit perfectly. Absolutely perfect. Then, as usual, we're just going to make sure we're getting this all applied, burnish this in, and then we're going to seal this up. And yes, you guessed it, we're going to do wax. And we're also going to wax around that rust part on the edge too, to make sure that the finish is smooth across all of it, so that not only is it sealed and smooth and pretty with that wax on the green, but also on the rust part as well. It helps tone it down a little bit. I do go in and just sprinkle in the decrepit dust and then use a shop towel to just kind of blot it away, just to tie the rust in with the rest of that plate to make sure that it just looks, it's stunning, y'all. And just wait now for the final projects.
What did you think of my makeovers? I loved them. I'm really glad I went with the color I did to upcycle them all and kind of make them all cohesive. I really had a great box to start with. Shelley made it very easy for me to work, and I appreciate that very much. Stay tuned and keep following our little train here as we work our way through everybody's boxes. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.